Hello guys, today I'm playing Sprocket, which is a really fantastic game that I picked up a couple months ago. It's just a tank building simulator with 8 levels you can play through, and the ninth one we don't really count because it's World War One, and oh, man, World War One tanks are just horrendous. The scenarios are really fun. Usually it's just you and a few allies fighting against other tanks. The number of allies you have depends on the weight of your tanks, as you have a total tonnage that's allocated per mission. So you can be kind of incentivized to build lighter tanks if you want more allies, although, it's fun to build super heavy tanks and ending up with just one or maybe two. Today I was kind of inspired to build a lighter tank, not ultra light, but fairly light, with a twin turret and then rear mounted. I'd say because we're starting interwar, it's probably a bit advanced for that time period in terms of the whole shape, and I don't know, maybe the shape of the turrets, although it definitely is a little goofy, but it's still really fun, and I like the way it performed across all of the missions and time periods. And, the design remained relatively consistent with a few small tweaks in late war, and it looked pretty good. Um, Rear-mounted turrets are kind of an interesting trade-off compared to front-mounted turrets, because with a front-mounted turret you have to expose less of your tank to get a shot off if you're coming around something, and it's easier to have more depression because your gun doesn't have to hang over all of your tank, whereas in this one, you'll see in the video, it has quite limited depression, and it actually in quite a few scenarios wasn't able to fire because it didn't wasn't able to get over my hole there, which is one of the main negatives for a rear-mounted turret. However, rear-mounted turrets do come with quite a few positives, which are kind of interesting. They're really good at side scraping, which unfortunately isn't a huge thing in this game, considering that there's no city maps to do and not a lot of cover. It's mostly more open field maps, but anyone who's familiar with World of Tanks or War Thunder would know all about that, and it's a good time. But the side armor on this tank isn't fantastic. We more so just have a bit of frontal armor. So that's not a huge consideration, but the other positives are for sure, and you're able to have a bigger and heavier gun realistically because you have more weight at the back of the tank, and therefore you're able to put your engine in the middle or the front to counteract that weight. Because otherwise, if you had a front-mounted tank with a huge gun, and then turret in the middle or the back, the barrel would be hanging over the front of the tank more, leading to more off balance, which could get you into trouble. Furthermore, with that front-mounted tank, if the barrel is hanging over the front of the tank and you're going over uneven terrain, sometimes the barrel of the tank can smack the ground, which, isn't a consideration in this game, but realistically it would be. You can actually destroy or severely damage your turret, and you'll see sometimes with front-mounted tanks that have really long guns, like the Tiger P, that they actually sometimes turn their turrets around and face the gun backwards, hanging over the back of their tank when they drive over really steep terrain just to protect it and not get into trouble. So that's one benefit of in the back. One negative, however, is that you can have exhaust that's in the way. You'll see in a moment here, I'll put the exhaust in, and we end up going for a mid-mounted engine, which is not the greatest, to be honest. But the problem with that is that the exhaust comes out of the middle of the tank, which obscures your optics in real life, which makes it a lot harder to aim. Fortunately, in this tank, it's not a consideration. One benefit with a rear-mounted turret is then it allows you, of course, to put the engine in the front of the tank, which gives you quite a bit more crew protection, because your whole crew is then protected by thousands of pounds of engines and transmissions, so any shots that penetrate through the front of your hull would be much less likely to deal damage or injury to your crew. However, in this tank you'll see we end up going for a mid-mounted engine. Thus that means our commander and driver are actually in the front of the tank, whereas our two gunner loaders are in the back of the tank. Thus in interwar, they'd really have a hard time doing any kind of communication. So yeah, I'm not so sure about that. Here, though, maybe they have an elaborate series of pulleys and wires telling them what to do, and the commander can pull a switch which will point to the gunners where they wants them to shoot at what tank to target, or maybe everyone's just a real crack shot and they have no problem, they know what to do, and it's just kind of an independently operated tank. um, yeah, the first mission we start out with is ambush, which I think is a really fun one. Uh, you know, big open field, and this tank's a lot of fun because it's pretty quick and it has good firepower. So for all these map where it's wide open fields with some hills and stuff to drive around, the tank has pretty decent mobility and can actually traverse the map pretty quick and get into good positions. And then surprisingly, it ends up with quite a decent amount of frontal armor there on the pike-shaped hole there at the front. And we bounce quite a few shots, and actually we even bounce a King Tiger shot at one point, which I really wasn't expecting, but was quite a good surprise, because don't want your tank to die. Yeah, tank ended up at 9.9 tons, which pretty light, but not the lightest one out there. And we had a 60 caliber gun, which pretty significant for interwar, which had 133 millimeters of penetration by the end of the late war. We started off with around 80, which is more than enough to take out most tanks. Some of the French TDs that have a lot of frontal armor gave us a bit of trouble, but because we had decent mobility, we were able to drive around them and not get into too much gripe. The twin turrets are also quite interesting as well, because you can fire them together for a pretty decent amount of firepower that was able to take out most tanks in one hit, just due to the decent amount of caliber, and also good penetration. And then you could also change the fire group as well and fire them individually. So you'll see in the first few levels when the tanks are generally weaker and my guns are a little bit overkill for the most part, I'm firing them independently. So my rate of fire is actually quite good, and then because you can aim each turret independently, given that there's a gunner and loader in each one, I was able to rapid fire and take out quite a few tanks quite quickly. This was also helped by the fact that we had quite big caliber guns, so we were just able to load AP, so we had awesome penetration, and then due to those large calibers, when the shots actually penetrated, they did enough damage that they most of the time one-shotted the tanks, because sometimes you'll find with smaller caliber guns, when you penetrate a tank, it doesn't even necessarily mean a kill unless you get lucky and ammo rack them or maybe set them on fire quite nicely. So you end up having to use APHE, which will penetrate and then explode inside the tank, which often results in an insta-kill, but the trade-off for that is you reduce penetration. And then if you're using a small caliber gun, you'll find that sometimes you might struggle to penetrate in the first place, leading to a vicious cycle where you can, use AP and then have to dump 8 shots into them before they die, or desperately try to penetrate with APHE so you can get a kill, and then just takes so long. Besides firepower, I think the design of the tank came out pretty good. It's obviously, a little bit goofy and not modeled on any real tank, just kind of imagination, but I think it came out good. I like the shape of the tracks. They have almost like half trapezoid shape, the way they slope up at the front and back, almost 45-degree angle, a bit less than that, more like 35 degrees, looks good. And I think the rubber road tires really work well, kind of giving it the impression of a lighter tank going fast, and I don't know, just the spare tire in the back just really tickles my fancy as well. In terms of the hull shape, I think it's kind of interesting. The front of it is a little wonky, but it ends up having pretty good armor, given the fact that everything's sloped at about 45 degrees. A little bit of a weak point with the lower plate, but what tank doesn't have that? The back of the tank, I think, came out really nicely. The way it curves out on the sides to accommodate both turrets, I think ended up looking really good. It does look a little bird's eye view phallic perhaps, but I think that just adds to the charm, and as you can see there, the guns are working just fine, rapid fire. The turrets, I think, are pretty cool. I like how they slope at the back. I think they have a really nice profile, and I like how the gunner sights protrude from the top, making it look. And then, of course, we have to have a little bit of Polish pride, because the Poles are always so well known for their tank building programs and massive success of their tanks during World War II. So, just goes without saying. And I think that's all I have to say about this tank so far. You can see I'm just putting the finishing touches on ventilation, ensuring that the crew in the turrets is ventilated so they don't succumb to smoke sickness. But in general, I really enjoy these kind of sandbox games where you just get to express your creativity And, I think that's really improved by the fact that the game isn't too difficult to get into. Obviously, it takes a couple hours to kind of understand how things work, get a handle on splitting holes and turrets and, adding points, moving them around, but it doesn't take that long to become, relatively proficient at making a tank. You have an image in your mind's eye and you can kind of bring it to fruition. I've about 30 hours in this game, and I'm relatively happy with how I can make tanks look. I think there's definitely a much higher skill ceiling that I'm working towards. You can make really cool details of your own on the tank by improving little pockets sticking out of the tank, moving them down, creating your own custom things, your own hatches. So I'd like to work towards that. But in general, these sandbox games are nice because it's just kind of fun to build something and then test it out against the AI. It's so relaxing and low pressure. If you mess up, you just restart. If something doesn't work, you just come back and tinker with it. If your tank needs a bit more armor to withstand more shots, just throw it on, and then you realize you have to adjust the engine so it can move a bit quicker. Or maybe you're facing that Tiger in Crossroads and you don't want to run from it. You just want to build a massive gun and just take it out right away. That works too. And at the end of the day, it's just nice to relax when you play a game and feel good that something you made is blowing other things up. I think that's just a male instinct. um, Other sandbox games I've really enjoyed. I played quite a bit of Arma 2, where you just choose a random vehicle or tank or weapon and spawn in with it, and then you just get simple missions to blow stuff up or something like that. And, that was fun. I put a lot of hours into it. I'm really excited for when Sprocket adds more levels so that you are able to, try tanks in different scenarios. I think a city would do really well. It would be totally different because, as I mentioned before, most of the maps are just open. And with that, we're on to these maps. Our first enemy here are these PZ Confogans, which, have a medium amount of armor on the front for the interwar. And this guy takes a direct shot from the front, and it's only the third shot that actually takes him out. And you'll see we were angled right towards him, so our armor was actually able to bounce 3 shots from, just 1 shot, which was nice. And then over here we have another one out in the front, and we were able to, switch between our guns pretty quickly and lay some shots into him, which was nice. Come around the corner, here's another one, and on fire with the 4th shot, which came from enemy, and then my 5th shot takes him down. Again, we're bouncing from him, so we're not in too much trouble, and with that, there's just 1 enemy left, and I have 2 more allies. And what we see is that French anti-tank destroyer, which has a bit of armor on the front. You'll see 85, 100, my gun just isn't quite able to get it, so we use our mobility, which is, not terrible for interwar, and zoom around the corner, pop up over the hill, try and get an angle on the side, take the time, zoom in, and 1 on the side, does penetrate, does some damage, and the second one here, a little bit more damage, and then the third one sets him on fire and seals the deal. Next map here is Dune, which I'm a really big fan of. I quite like this map. I think it's nice because it's open, so you don't have to drive around to find your enemies. You can see them right away, but you can also retreat and hide behind the hills and, drive around, make a tactic. You'll see we take out a Hemivore with just 1 shot, which is good, and then we're trying to do some long-range shots against this AT again, which, I don't know, I think maybe I can penetrate it from the front this time, but clearly not. We move over to see if we can take another shot, and you'll see the gun clips into the top of the turret, making it not able to fire, which is no good. Peek over the ridge. Oh, is that an enemy? No, it's just one of my allies. You'll see we have 5 other allies here because the tank doesn't weigh that much, so it's again one of the benefits of having a lighter tank. We have allies putting in works. You'll see we've killed 1 tank and our allies have already killed 2, which is good. And then, oh, I think I shot myself. So that's definitely a little bit of a design flaw with this tank. In the later war stages, I actually put in constraints so that the turrets can't do that, which, is more realistic. But at the start, it's interwar, it's kind of janky. Peek up over the hill here. Oh, enemy tank, quick, fire, and oh, he's dead. No problem. Because my commander is my radio operator, that gives the commander a bit of a debuff as well, and then the gunner and loader are you know, how they have 2 jobs each, so it kind of reduces their efficiency. So we're below 80%, which is the threshold for a gunner being able to rotate the turret and aim up and down at the same time. Sorry, horizontally and vertically at the same time, which definitely gives it a little bit less trouble. And then here we peek over the hill, we see another anti-tank. You know, I'm zooming by, but then I realize he's tracked, so there's, you know, not really any rush. Run by the side, throw one into the corner, bada bing, bada boom. French tanks are dead, English tanks are dead. I guess this thing's kind of maybe German. You know, they like to have the rear-mounted tanks. Definitely looks a little goofy, but oh well. And with that, we're on to Silent Border. You know, maybe start of the war or continuation of it. Maybe that was an Italian peninsula or something. You know, in Ethiopia. I don't know what's happening. Anyways, in Silent Border, we're in early war, so we get extra 2 cylinders. We go from 6 to 8, and we put just a slightly bit more armor on the front, and then a little bit more on the roof. My commander tries to go for a shortcut there, you know, across the fields, but it appears that there's a mine. We're aiming towards the barn because it looks suspicious, and we'll see there's a shot come out from the anti-tank gun. We zoom in, get it up just in time, both guns fire, and we take it out no problem. We're looking ahead because there's definitely a few more, and you see allies are helpful. We take out another tank. There's one in front here which is firing. I try to get it down, but penetrates me. I'm setting it on fire. I try to get my gun down to take it, but another shot comes right in, takes us out. We move to the tank in the lead, and we drive over the tank trap, which doesn't go great. We give it a bit more gas, and we're able to power over through it. We take a shot on the side, which just takes out our transmission, thankfully, and one of our turrets. And we managed to swing the turret to take it out, but our ally gets it before we do. And, you know, no biggie. With that, we're on to Railroads, which is quite a big open map, and we have 7 allies against 7 enemies, so pretty equal numbers, and this tank has good firepower, so I'm feeling pretty good with this. We decide to go over to the left, see if we can get a bit of a flanking motion. See, we have an ally in the front. He takes out someone, which is good. There's 2 people going down the middle. We take out another one, but also, you know, cost of going down the middle, you're going to draw a lot of fire, so we lose one of ours. But, you know, down 3 enemies for only 1 ally is always a good trade. Looks like the rest of them are hiding behind the hill, so we're zooming along unopposed. We get a peek here, we see one, and our ally takes him up before we can do anything. And another enemy peeks over the hill there, and our allies take him out. And I drive over the hill, I'm looking around, and I see, oh, that's a tank. But that's the one our allies already took out. So, you know, I take my sweet time aiming in, take a shot. I'm like, oh, strange, I must have missed. Get a better angle. Oh, one more shot here. And then I realize that, oh, that guy's already dead. Bit of a waste of time. We carry on for the 2 more tanks who are probably down over by the road. See if we can wrap this up without losing any more allies. And you'll see the right. I see him. Turn. Get my frontal armor towards him, aim down, pop, right in the turret, set him on fire. That's definitely good. This guy unfortunately has a bit of an ally in the tree. We take a shot, and we take his track off, which is good, you know, immobilizes him. Move back, see if we can get another shot. That one didn't quite go for it. Move in, set a position, right in the side. That guy's done. With that, we're into interwar against the King Taiga in a dug-in position, which is always ferocious. Again, in the medium, we put an extra cylinder in, so we're at 10 cylinders now in this little 10-ton tank. So we're zooming pretty good, you know, 40 kilometers an hour. And we're trying to flank around this Tiger to see if we can put a shot in his side, because we have about 120 millimeters of pen at this point. And you'll see we eat a shot from the front, and we survive, which is surprising, very nice. The Tigers are taking out one of our allies who are just charging down the center of the road. We keep going here through this wheat field to see if we can get him. We pull over and dead. Go into one of our allies here and we realize that he's had his transmission taken out. So we bail out of that one. We go over the hill. They're just dodging one by the King turret, and it's a 1v1. I'm gonna see if I can finish this myself. We go over here, and we're kind of sloped facing towards him a bit. Zoom in. Boom. 2 right in the turret. 1 penetrates through, and he goes through right into my engine. So unfortunately we lose that one, but thankfully for us, we have the power to reset and try again. And this time, it was quite a bit better. Allies once again heading down the center road. I decided to try and flank the other way, crashing through that fence. well, one of our allies takes a shot, which is unfortunate. Moving forward here again, see if we can get a better angle, flank around, put a shot into his side, and then, oh, one of my allies penetrates him, but how's that? How are we going to get him from the front? And then you zoom up here and you see that he's tried to come out of his position, given his whole, bottom of the tank, not even lower plate, the bottom half of it, and so shot was able to go right in. With that, onto my favorite level, which is Fields, which I just think is really fun because you get to have two engagements, one against the forward light tanks, which, a bit more mobility based, put a couple shots into them, that's it. You'll see I'm commanding my tanks, getting them to where I want. Radio system's a little janky in this game, along with these janky turrets clipping, but following those light tanks, you get to face against heavy tanks, which is kind of fun too, because your tank not only has to be able to be quick enough to deal with the light tanks, but also have a big enough gun to deal with the heavy tanks. Pop over the hill here, we see our first enemies. We put two into him, one ricochets and bounce, and you'll see it kind of jerks around the turret, fire again, doesn't get it, and the third one takes it out. Alibar's down. I zoom out to take a look around and I see there's a shit ton of other tanks around me. We try to get that one, but again, gun depression not in our favor. We turn and we realize there's three over here, so we face our armor to them. One goes down, no problem. Second one we miss. We switch to the second gun. Boom, there he is, he's gone. Put another one in just for, good measure, make sure he's on fire. And then the last one here, turn, boom, he's done. I turn around to see if I can do any help, but it looks like my allies have already killed all of them, and we've taken no losses. So I think that's a testament to the frontal armor of this tank, because they didn't get any side shots on us because I was able to stop them on our right flank there. And all their shots were just bouncing off of our ally tanks. We're zooming forward here, and we realize we're against Panthers, which, medium heavy. They have pretty good armor, decent speed, pretty good gun, and our allies there take out two tanks from afar, and then there's the third one, which is surprising because, I didn't realize the guns were that good, but I'm not going to complain. We come over the hill here to see what we can see, maybe get a side shot, pop over, and there's one. We try to take a shot, but gun depression fails us a little bit, not quite able to get a shot, and then that one bounces. Peek over the hill to see if we can get this guy, get it up, and you can see that's where the poor gunner stats come in. We weren't able to go up and to the side at the same time. Put another one into the side, that one bounces, get up here, go for a better shot, and aim it up, and... And with that, we zoom to adjust to that third tank, but an ally puts one in the side, and that's it. After that, we're on to late war, last two ones. First one's Taiga. We made the tank slightly larger, which, clearly doesn't help with our driving abilities. We give our ally a bump, but I think he was stuck, so maybe it was a good thing. And then in addition to a slightly larger hull, we made the turrets slightly larger, and that's just to accommodate a little bit larger gun and then therefore larger caliper. In addition, we put slightly more armor on the front, and then we changed our 60 cal gun to a 90 cal, putting it as 188 pen, which is good. We zoom over on the right side, ally helps us take it out, we throw a shot into that Super Cromwell, and then as we get closer we see it went right through the lower plate, which is beautiful. That guy was a little suspicious. I put one into him, but he was already dead, so now he's on fire. Anyone hiding inside, well, sorry, no luck. Beyond that, our allies have done a pretty damn good job taking out most of the other team's tanks. There's just one coming around for the flanking shot so we can finish it up here. And we peek over the ridge, commander can just see him, turn the tank towards him, face that armor, try and get a shot off. Not quite. Rough terrain makes it a little bit difficult, especially with the crappy gunners. Oh, wasn't quite reloaded, that would have been a beautiful side shot. Come around behind him, bounce a little bit off the back, but we have him now. We reload, we're going to put one right into the back of the engine bay. That's on fire, that's the end of it, but you never know what the crew's going to be able to do, so we put another two right into the back of the turret. And with that, he's dead. Finally, we're on to the last mission, defense. We have 15 tanks, 14 allies, which is pretty crazy. That's pretty difficult to get past, especially considering they only have 8. We zoom up to the front here to see if we can get a defendable position, and we see a Puma at the front here, which has pretty decent armor. You see we bounce one of the shots, the second one goes through, and then there with our second salvo we put another one through the maybe lower plate edition. He's done. Got an AMX 158 there at the side, but he doesn't realize us. You know, poor French visibility with their Commander Capullo, so he drives straight by. We're able to put one right in the side. Allies have taken out the other 5 enemies, and we're left with just one more, which is PZ78. And he takes out one of our allies, which is unfortunate. I come up to the side, try to put a side shot on him, don't quite hit him, aim a bit more, boom, 2 go in. That does a bit of damage, but he's on fire but not dead. See if we can get another shot off there. 1 goes through, but again, he's not dead. Shot bounces off the front there. I'm trying to move up so I can put a finishing blow on him. Aiming down. Again, missed just because of that bounce in the train just at the last moment. And unfortunately he manages to kill one of our other allies, and just as we get into position to finish him, our ally finishes him off. And with that, we've beat the game with this bad boy. I had a lot of fun making this tank. I think it turned out pretty nicely. I like the shape of the turret, like I mentioned. I think it had a cool profile. The twin turrets worked out pretty nicely, and I had a fun time taking it from, 1930s up to 1945, and I think it performed really well. Thanks for watching, and take care.